Starts. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Mel Robertson, and I'd like to welcome you to Happiness is Your Own Damn Fault. What we're talking about is how to drop the baggage, increase your frequency, and live a bliss-filled life. Now, I decided to put this summit together because I want you to know that happiness is equally available to everyone, no matter the circumstances you've endured. No matter what you've been through, you can choose happiness now. Happiness is your birthright. It is your natural state of being underneath all the baggage you've been dragging around with you for all those years. So I wanted to interview people who are truly happy and get them to share with you their secrets on how they let go of the past, stopped worrying about the future, and started living their bliss. Today, I'm excited to welcome Christopher Tim, and I chose him because he is here to remind us of our own divine nature and the abundance of the universe that we are. Now, people think of Christopher in many different ways, as a teacher, healer, and renegade mystic. He considers himself a reminder of the oneness that you are, and simply a friend walking beside you, discovering sights along the way. He founded the Order of the Blue Star in 1988 and has been sharing the eternal teachings since that time. He also founded and facilitates the Blue Star Mystery School and Sound Energy Dynamics, classes that reach worldwide. The message is the messenger, actually and without compromise. By helping us redefine our worldview, Christopher guides us toward the experience of oneness, resulting in a richly fulfilled life. Highly clairvoyant and clairaudient since childhood, Christopher feels that these and other abilities, while blessed gifts, are merely byproducts of his union with the one source that we are all a part of and inseparable from. Christopher teaches that it is natural for all of us to directly experience sacred unity, as he guides us to the oneness that rests within each of us. Christopher embodies powerful and profound eternal teachings, and as he shares his knowledge and understanding of them, people are able to experience a facilitated direct connection to oneness through his presence or even his voice. Many people report that these experiential moments with Christopher completely transcend any of the teachings, materials, or information he delivers. It is through this experiential connection to sacred unity or oneness that we will ultimately experience true freedom and live the manifestation of our dreams. Welcome, Christopher.
Thank you, Melinda. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. It's such a pleasure to have you back on the summit with me.
It's great to be able to spend a little bit of time with you again.
So before we jump in, do you want to take a minute just to share with our listeners a little bit about you and how you came to do what you do?
Sure. Well, I've been doing this for now 27 years. And when I first started with the Order of the Blue Star, there was no internet presence really. There was nothing like that going on. And it was all word of mouth advertising. I had no business plan really, no bankroll, no book deal, nothing that was kind of paving a road in front of me. And I just spoke with people who spoke to other people and went to fairs and festivals and began to talk. And before you know it, within 2 years, I was traveling to 18 different cities, from Vancouver to Santa Cruz to Dallas to Miami to Boston and everywhere in between. And I would travel, usually driving. I drove between 50 and 60,000 miles a year for a long time, for a number of years. And that doesn't count what I would fly, when I'd be teaching in Australia or different other opportunities. So it was kind of like a nonstop rock and roll show. And that was wonderful because it got me to sharpen my skills. During that time, too, I would be teaching 4 or 5 nights every week, teaching every weekend. And often during the day, I'd do a smattering of some private session work. And try to hit the gym in the different cities that I'd be in the morning, get some time in nature, and it was just a non-stop experience. But my skills really developed because you're in front of people almost every night, almost every weekend. The presentation skills, teaching skills, the ability to answer questions, and the ability to listen, to really hear what other people are asking and wanting to know about. And so while I'm really thankful for those years of life, I'm really thankful for the internet presence and these strange animals called telesummits where we get to reach, all of these people all over the world, and I can sit in my office and talk with you, and we can reach all these people, and, teach over the internet, all the things that we can do now that weren't available when I started. So it's been a huge metamorphosis of just watching things unfold as the technology expresses our creativity.
Yeah, I bet. Wow. I can't even imagine having to build a business back when there was no internet at this point.
It was very funny because I built my contracting business. I marketed every band that I ever played in. There was no internet. I had no 800 number. I had no cell phone. There was just knocking on the doors, and things happened. But, people, believe it or not, we all survived without cell phones. We all survived without being wired to the universe. And this is just a different time now. It's just a whole different level of existence that we're in. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just jump right in, and let me ask you, what exactly are the eternal teachings that you talk about?
Well, the eternal teachings are two things. One, the eternal teachings is a prayer or an affirmation that sets the stage for every lecture, every teaching I've shared since January 8th of 1988 when I start the Order of the Blue Star. So everything has this continuity to it. So it's a momentum that's been built up over all these years. It gathers everyone's energy. It is a mission statement, you could say, for the teachings. No matter what the topic is, the Eternal Teachings talks about that in its entirety, no matter what the topic, whether it's vibrant health, sacred geometry, ancient civilizations, ancient texts, healing, nutrition, it doesn't matter. It's all there in the Eternal Teachings, which you'll see. So that's what it is at one level. At another level, it speaks to us about a way of life that we each already know, that we each have nesting within us, just waiting to awaken once again. So it speaks to the subconscious mind, reminds us of our own true nature. So how about if we begin with that?
Oh, that would be wonderful.
So
yeah, please.
The customary way I share it is with the sound of this bell. So we're just going to start this like it's a regular class. All right, everyone. So why don't you just close your eyes, take a nice deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for a moment. And exhale through your mouth. And as you listen to the sound of this beautiful Tibetan bell, allow it to remind you of the sound that rests within you. Listening to the sound that silence makes. There is an essence that binds and sustains and is all life. This essence, this living presence, is the oneness that you are. The oneness that you are. Shapeless, formless, and eternal are you, with no boundary, with no container. You were never born, so you can never die. This is the oneness that you are. This is the oneness that you are. With nothing to grow into and nothing to become, for you are all life. You are all life. There is no separation between you and me, the air that we breathe, the sun that shines upon us, or the earth that we walk on. No separation at all. All life is one, always has been and always will be. And this oneness that is the air and the earth, this oneness that is the seasons for the harvest and the laughter of the children, this is the oneness that you are. This is the oneness that you are. This cannot be taught to you, for this is not to be understood. You see, this is only to be experienced, appreciated, and realized. Accept this and be free. Accept this and be free. Accept this. All of this. All of this. And be. Just be. Just be. Just be. All right, everyone, take a nice deep breath in once again. Now let it go. That's what I call the eternal teachings, Melinda and everyone. It forms the hub of the wheel of life, the wheel of samsara, the wheel of birth and death and rebirth. Everything has its beginning and its ending in this oneness, in this essential unity. In the ancient Aramaic, it will be called the Abwoon. The Abwoon. The Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the ending of all things. The spokes of the wheel of life, that which give it boundary and container, are the religions, the philosophies, the political systems, the concepts, structures, beliefs, faiths, all the notions. All of these have their origins in the one. And while they appear to be moving further and further away from the one, we realize that there is no such thing as a straight line in creation. This is special relativity. And that all lines extending out from an origin point end up folding back upon themselves, creating a petal-like shape, like a petal on a flower. And as any path, let's take Christianity, extends out away from the one into all of its dogma, rituals, ceremonies, the polarities, all the different things that happen within religious life, then the Christian mystic turns that petal with his insight, which is transcendent to any teaching, idea, the experience of oneness, and returns back to that sacred unity, that origin point. And then that momentum carries through that point again to the other side of the wheel, extending a new spoke until that folds back. So we create a propeller-like shape of these two lobes that you can see going back and forth. And then if we take that shape, Melinda, and we take that and we turn it like a propeller turning around, this represents the movement of time. And then we're creating a donut-like shape, which is now called a torus. So the wheel of life, of birth and death and rebirth, is really a torus. Like most every cell in your body is a torus. So within us is the wheel of life at all levels. We're the beginning and the ending of all things. So those are some of the symbols we begin with, and that in and of itself, see, to me, as we talk about happiness, it's important for people to understand from an experiential, fundamental level, and we can do this with symbols as well as ideas that we share, that there's a innate wholeness within each one of us, that we're not broken. None of us are broken. None of us need to be fixed. Doesn't matter what you've gone through. It doesn't matter what you've experienced in this life. You're still not broken. And it's up to the authentic spiritual teaching to help you reveal that wholeness within yourself. Because within that, there's incredible joy. And from that comes happiness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And while you were doing the prayer, something that was coming up to talk to you about was, something that came to my mind is that, that we can all experience change, but how can people reconcile that have been, brought up in different religions where we're taught that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God? How can we reconcile that?
Yeah, that's part of it's part of the age that we're in that, or that we've been in. We've been in the age of Pisces. Everybody needs to get some context here as we talk about religion. There are only two religions that have been really started in the last 2,000 years. Did you know that?
No.
That's Christianity and Islam. And both of them are built upon a messianic figure. They're built upon the unworthiness of man to deserve salvation. And then it's through allegiance and conformity and compliance to the doctrines and rules that you're to get this ultimate reward when you play the game that way.
Right.
And Jesus wasn't a Christian. Jesus wasn't even an accepted Jew, because the Jews didn't like him, the Christians didn't like him, the Essenes didn't really even like him. The Gnostics, he had more in common with the Gnostics, and Buddha grew up in the middle of India, and he developed this new idea that was heretical to the Hindu and Vedantic teachings of that time, and basically was running from village to village, he and his wife, his whole life, because he was a heretic. People don't understand the context of these things, so they have difficulty grasping what was really going on. And the religious life is based upon faith and belief and understanding. And as soon as you begin to experience things that are incorporated within the religion's belief structure, then you become dangerous, because you're going to realize through your experience, Melinda, that your experiences don't really fit what they tell you in the church.
Nope.
And then whether you're a Muslim or you're a Christian, with all the different sects of these religions, they'll show you what's called the left foot of fellowship, which is kind of punting you down the street. Don't call us, we'll call you. And that's the age that we've been in, and we're leaving the age of religion now. And we're just awakening in the dawning of the age of Aquarius to the age of the true spiritual path once again. Pisces was about duality, separateness, and intermediaries between you and God. And in the age of Aquarius, it's all about the direct, unbroken connection between you and the divine. and everybody has it. It's just been covered up by the energies and the teachings, doctrines, government systems, banking systems, everything of the old age. But now we're dawning into a time where all of those structures are falling apart all around us, revealing this innate wholeness, an innate connectedness we have to each other, to eternity, to the universe. And within that, there's an innate happiness. There's an innate joy. So I hope I'm not rambling off the path too much. I just wanted to try to paint the picture around what you were asking about.
Yeah, no, not at all. That's really helpful. Absolutely.
So where would you like to go from here? You want to talk about happiness in relation to joy?
Yeah, absolutely. So what is the difference between happiness and joy?
Well, I was just running some errands earlier today after I left the gym and doing some things, and I was listening to Catholic radio, believe it or not, and I listened to some of the shows that talk about scriptures and how they're interpreting things, and a lot of the time it's infuriating, and I have to change the channel. But to me, but every once in a while there's some insightful stuff that I can really chew on, and one of the priests was talking about how in the ancient Aramaic language, because a lot of these are very academically trained people, they're just in the net of Catholicism, in that flavor. So
right.
They started talking about ancient languages, and they really know what they're talking about. And they were talking about the difference between happiness and joy. And they were kind of cattle shooting it, funneling it down into the Catholic do's and don'ts idea. But the abstract idea was just beautiful, and it's that joy is a much higher vibration than happiness. Happiness is a thing that can come and go, depending upon if you wake up from a nap and you're grumpy, you're not particularly happy, right? If something doesn't go your way, you're not happy for a little bit of time. We all go through that. That's normal. It's kind of a swing back and forth. But once you cultivated and developed your spiritual path, and you're really deeply embedded in the experience of these eternal principles that I was just speaking about in the eternal teaching, as you experience that as your foundation through which you can bounce around in all other feelings, that brings about an acceptance, a comfort, and a deep sense which I know is joy. And it's there even when I'm really irritated when that person cuts me off in traffic.
Yep.
Or when someone's driving way too slow on my road and I'm trying to get to where I think I need to go.
Yeah.
It's right there. It's right there. And it's right there when I'm 5 feet away from my daughter as she's giving birth to a child right in front of my eyes. It's there when I'm at the gym. That joy is there in all aspects of life because I've taken the time to cultivate that joy by investing in these experiences that accrue within me, just like you're investing in a bank account. It's kind of your eternal bank account you're investing in.
I love that.
Yeah. And it's the true metaphysics of how the mystical or high spiritual path works. As you invest, then that investment accrues, and then that begins to leverage your consciousness into a deeper, and we could say a higher realm of vibration, and you just rest there. That becomes your normal state of consciousness. Instead of visiting there, you're always there. That's when you reach joy. See, and I wanted to talk about that because people confuse happiness with joy. And they only confuse happiness with joy when they really have never experienced joy.
Yeah.
They just run from happiness to happiness, and when they're unhappy, they want to get happy, so they just swing back and forth from happiness to unhappiness, happiness to unhappiness, and they want to try to be unhappy, or try not to be unhappy, excuse me, and so they're always swinging back and forth. They don't take the time in their practices and their lifestyles to really cultivate what joy is. So I wanted to just lay that out on the table for people to consider that.
Yeah, and I think, too, it's like, you know, we're brought up, I was just talking about this with someone the other day, like, we're brought up in a society that teaches us to go outside of ourselves for anything that we need. I mean, just from the time that you're a kid, you get a headache or an earache and they want to give you medicine. They want to give you something to put in your body to take care of you. And you're taught from a really early age not to go within your own body to get connected, or go within to, you know, find your source and find your answers. We're taught the total opposite from the time we're kids, to just seek without. And so we think happiness is somewhere outside of ourselves, and that we're going to get it in the next shiny object that we get. But that's all fleeting. Like, true joy comes from knowing your soul's purpose and knowing that you're eternal, and knowing that you're eternal and nothing can harm you. That's true joy and bliss for me.
That's right. That's right. And I was rereading last night part of the Gnostic texts. One of the more popular Gospels from that is the Gospel of Thomas, and that's one of Jesus's brothers. There were 7 in the family. See, people don't know any of that history.
Nope.
There were 7 kids in the family, right? Go figure. And the Gospel of Thomas, and in the Gospel of Thomas, Thomas is writing for us that the kingdom of heaven is within us and outside of us, and we're inseparable from it, and that needs to be the focus of our entire spiritual life, is experiencing this kingdom of heaven, which is experiencing that all of this is the body of God. The church is supposed to be the body of God, but that's all a construct of man, because even right there in that gospel and some of the other surrounding gospels, like the Gospel of Judas, they talk about how the real church is not of brick and mortar.
Right.
It's not of wood or stone. The real church is within you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere. Go ahead. No, go right ahead.
I was just going to say, when you know that, when you experience that, then you are touching and walking through the doorway into that joy, just by being open to the idea that, wow, the kingdom of heaven really rests within me, even though I'm filled with all these contradictions and all this stuff and all these things that I deal with as a regular human being. The kingdom of heaven still rests within me, meaning this kingdom is a perception, a true perception of our nature beyond birth and death and rebirth, where you realize that you were never born, so you can never die. Beyond evolution of consciousness and growing and processing, your true nature is the living light of eternity, shining in your own heart. That's what you are.
Say that again. Living light of eternity. I just want everybody to hear that one more time.
Yes, your true nature is the living light of eternity itself, shining within your own heart. It's right there. It just gets covered up. It gets covered up with our need to understand, our need to be in control, our need to be right, our need to be wrong, our issues, our dramas, all the things that we take so seriously, all trying to process and work our way down the yellow brick road just to get back to the place that we never really left.
I love that. So we've been talking about the eternal teachings that we should pay attention to, but what are the temporary teachings that we shouldn't be paying attention to?
And it's a great question that, Melinda, I just wanted to save for you because I've never had anyone to talk to where I wanted to explore that. So you're the only interview I've ever done where I've talked about that.
Wow, thank you.
Isn't that fun?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. The eternal teachings are about your true nature. So the temporary teachings would be about your false nature, what's your temporary nature, rather than your true or your eternal nature. So what does that mean? It's in different teachings, like in Buddhism, they'll talk about that as the little self. The little self is worshiping your personality as though it's actually real. Worshiping your issues, your what you may call your contracts or your karma or any of this stuff as though it is real. And boy, this punches everybody's buttons because everybody is just trying to work on all of their issues and their dramas and their contracts and fulfill this and get over these issues so that they can be more divine.
Let me interject really quick because you're using the word worshiping our personality and worshiping our issues. Can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by worshiping so everybody can understand?
Yes. Your personality, in really clear terms, I'm glad you asked me to develop this a little bit for you. Your personality is the ego. Now, everybody, understand this. Your ego is not the enemy. You're not supposed to try to destroy your ego with photon torpedoes and phaser shots. You're not supposed to try to get rid of it. If you, Melinda, if you were to get rid of your ego, you would be a puddle of energy just kind of floating around like a cloud in the backyard somewhere, okay? It just wouldn't, it doesn't work. Here's the trick to ego, everybody. This will help you so much. This will amplify your spiritual acceleration by 20-fold. The trick to ego is understanding that you're here to have a big ego. A big ego. You're not here to be little. Do you think you were here, Melinda? Do you think you were born in this life at this time to just have a mediocre ho-hum experience?
Hell no. I was born big.
You're born big. Everybody's born big. They get contorted into the cattle chute of life, thrown into the shoebox, and then they end up shaped like everybody else. Some of us just can't stay in the shoebox. We break out, escape from the corral, and then we figure it out on our own. And the trick to ego is realizing, here it is, that the ego, the personality itself, doesn't even really exist. It's just a wetsuit. You're putting on the ego, the wetsuit, the personality, to experience this realm of time, space, matter, and energy. It animates that cloud of energy that you are. And it's the flavor that you are right now, this personality. So I have a huge ego. I love just being Christopher Timms. I'm great. Just ask me. Right? And the thing about ego, again, I feel so comfortable in my skin just being me because I know that I don't even really exist. So you can't be self-important. You can't be falling off the wagon into all of that delusional stuff because the check is that you don't even actually exist. So I can't take myself and my great wisdom too seriously, even though it is great wisdom, and all of this fantastic stuff, because I'm just a figment of God's imagination. So you're free to be that big. So feel the joy in that. You can't fail, everybody. You can't fail. There is no failure.
No, there isn't no failure. And that one thing I want to talk about and ask you from this point, because when you one of the things that I've struggled with is, and that I struggle with is when you realize that nothing is real, that this reality isn't real, there can be like a little depression and almost like, well, if it's not real, what's the point? So can you talk about that a little bit?
That's perfect. That's perfect. And this really comes up in one of the mystery school classes, which is a big full-on teaching, for 14 months. It's a 14-month-long class I teach, but it's called The Meaning of Life. There's a whole section about the meaning of life. And in the beginning of our spiritual journey, when we're in the cattle chute, when we're in the spiritual playpen, the religions tell you what your life is about. You're a sinner, you have to repent, and you have to behave, you have to follow our rules. The government tells you it's dangerous out there, we have to protect you, you have to do this, that, and the other thing for us to do all that. So you're told the meaning of life, serve God, serve country, all of this, that life is somehow this big schoolyard and you're going to evolve and grow and become something that you're not already a part of, and all of that type of thing. And yet when you know that somehow none of this really exists and yet you're here, there is that sense of melancholy, the sense of confusion and discouragement. It says, okay, well, what's the point? So I'm kind of distilling down about an hour and a half section of class just for you guys with this. And so when you're tired of other people telling you what your life is supposed to be about, psychics, teachers, your own psychology, all this telling you what you're supposed to do, your mission, your purpose, your all of this stuff, when all of it is conflicted by this idea that this realm doesn't even really exist, so what's the point? Then you're beginning to walk through that doorway into a whole nother arena to realize the incredible freedom that you have, because now you're ready to realize the meaning of life. So perhaps in this moment, life as you know it, life as you experience it right now with this very breath has no meaning. It has no meaning at all, none, other than the meaning and the purpose that you give it in your own heart right now. What is the meaning of the sunset as it sets below the horizon with the beautiful colors? What is the meaning of it? Well, there is no meaning. It just is what it is. What is the meaning of the beautiful songs of the birds here in the morning? There's no meaning. You could interpret how the sun sets behind the horizon and how the colors are, but that's not what it means. You could interpret what the calls are of the birds in the morning to each other, but that's not what it means. The meaning that you find when you look into the eyes of someone that you love, what is the meaning of that? The meaning is what you give it in your own heart. This is the awakening of your own heart. This is the true awakening of your heart when you realize the meaninglessness of life. See, other people have been throwing blankets all over you with their concepts of what your life is supposed to be about. But it's time for you to take it all back yourself. This is about empowering yourself as the individual, realizing that I give my life its meaning. I give it its meaning.
I love that.
Yeah. So I'm free to truly excel at whatever I want to do. I know that it doesn't really exist, but in these moments, it's truly profound, whether I'm playing drums, whether I'm playing the violin, which I do those things, whether I'm building and designing things for the house, whether I'm speaking with you, whether I'm sharing with my children or my grandchildren. The meaning, to discern and to be in the presence of the meaning demands that we be present, demands that we let go of our past and our agenda, stripping away all of this stuff that keeps you from me. that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I love that. That is
It's
so
pretty
powerful.
fun.
It is.
So you do this to me. You pull me out of the box, and then there you go.
Good. Oh, good. So we're just about out of time today, but before we end, I wanted to just give you an opportunity to talk about what it means to you to live a bliss-filled life.
That was a great question when you posed that for me to just consider, and I jotted it down on my pad, and been looking at it throughout our conversation together. And the bliss-filled life for me is experiencing my day-to-day experience, my day-to-day time. When I get up before the sun rises, the stillness, I'm just filled with that joy, and I'm curious. I feel like a cosmic Dennis the Menace. What can I possibly get into today? And I love that. That's kind of how I feel, and I just go out the door and can't wait to get to the gym, even though it's early and you're kind of, half there, half not there. But when I get going, I'm really on, and then I'm excited to experience everything in the day, the opportunities, the creative things. I have about a half a page of ideas of things that I wrote down today, that I'd like to develop in teachings and opportunities to just my own creativity. And to me, a life filled with joy through the spiritual foundations that we've shared a little bit about today is a bliss-filled life. And happiness may come and go, but your bliss, your joy, to me, bliss is joy, is always there, always there. And I was thinking about how best to describe that. And one of the things I'm working on in these last couple of years is really improving my flexibility, stretching. And as you know, many of you, stretching can be pretty painful.
Yep.
Particularly when you're as stiff as a board, and you're trying to do all this stretching, and I'm thinking, okay, where is my bliss? Doing this, and I'm just sweating because it's just so painful, all the stretching. And I do it every day for 45 minutes is my core work and my stretching before I even touch any weights. And it's a lot. And I'm thinking that the best way to describe the bliss in that experience, which is painful, and you're doing it to yourself. So the little voice says, well, why are you doing this again? Right? You could be home having a nice cup of organic coffee and some fruit, and so there's such a deep sense of fulfillment and satisfaction, not necessarily from the action, but somehow that you're doing the best thing that you can do to provide a space for your creativity to just flow, for your consciousness to be vesseled in this body to express all of its amazement, its curiosities. And that's what I'm thinking, when I'm stretching, because I want to be nimble, I want to be agile, I want to be well balanced, in my physical body. And that's just one of the ways I experience bliss. And forgive me for rambling. I just wanted to share that with you, because I think people need to understand how it connects with all experiences in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the most important thing, because, I think people think that living your bliss means that you walk around totally blissed out and happy and bubbly all the time, but it's not. It's an underlying, for me, when I think about living my bliss, like, I know that I can be in the midst of, like, struggles and chaos and pain in my life or fear, but there is an underlying knowing inside of me that everything is okay and all is well. So none of it matters. I can still tap into and feel the joy and bliss inside of myself, even amidst the chaos. It's like being the eye of the hurricane. It's like what I like to call it.
Yep, that's right. Exactly. And that's a great metaphor for people to have, is the eye of the hurricane.
Yeah, it can be chaos around you.
That's it. That's it. And the chaos, everybody, that's around you is all of the creativity that you have in its abstract forms, just spinning and collecting and pushing off each other and attracting to each other. And it's all these different wavelengths and frequencies storming all around you, taking its form.
Well, Christopher, it's been such an amazing interview with you, and I'm so honored to have you here. Do you have any parting words of wisdom you'd like to share with our audience before we close?
Something that occurred to me today, too, is that perhaps the most sacred of all scriptures, ancient texts, is the one that we walk around with all day, every day. It's your heart. And perhaps the most sacred teachings, our true divine wisdom, is that which is written on the tablet of your own heart. And all we have to do to read it is just uncover it, worship, and put our attention upon the eternal instead of the temporary, and watch all the blankets just disappear.
Yes. Thank you. All right. So before we go, I just want to remind everyone that happiness, it's an inside job, and it's equally available to everyone. We're living in a time now where we can choose to drop whatever baggage we've been carrying around. We can drop the old stories. It just starts with a choice. You are powerful beyond measure, and all you need to do is tap into that divine power that created you and follow the guidance you were given. You were born to be happy, experience joy, and live an abundant, blissed-out, spacious life. And I want to hear from you and what you thought about this interview, so please hit reply and share your thoughts with me. Christopher, it's been such a pleasure having you here again. Thank you so much.
Melanie, thank you. Melanie, here I go again. I did it again. So, Melinda, it's just great talking with you again and hanging. And I know we'll talk